Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For the first, let me introduce myself. My name is Rahmi Azmiati. I'm from Regular Morning Banjarbaru class. Today, I want to explain about what is function English grammar. Okay, with let's start with what is function grammar. So, functional grammar based on systemic linguistics emphasize the way spoken and written language operate in different social situations. In particular, it is very useful in showing how texts work beyond the level of the sentence, how different texts are structured, and how language varies to suit the purpose of the users. It takes on a descriptive approach and focus on groups of words that function to make meanings. In his classic book, An Introduction to Functional Grammar, Halliday points out that functional grammar is so called because its conceptual framework is a functional one rather than a formal one. It is functional in three distinct sentences in its interpretation. First is of text, 2 of the system, 3 of the elements of linguistic structures. In the first sense, functional grammar is designed to account for how the language is used. Every text, everything that is said or written, unfolds in some context of use. Over tens of thousands of generations of contents used, language has shaped into a system which can satisfy human needs. Therefore, a functional grammar is essentially a natural grammar in the sense that everything in it can be explained ultimately by reference to how language is used. In the second sense, the fundamental components of meaning in language are functional components. According to the analysis of Halliday, all language are organized around two kinds of meaning: the intentional, to understand the environment, and the interpersonal, to act on the other in it. Combined with these two is a third component, the textual, which brings relevance into the other two. These three components are called metafunctions. In the terminology of F.G. theory, in the third sense, each element in a language is explained by reference to its function in the total linguistic system. Accordingly, a functional grammar is one that construes all the units of a language, its clauses, parts, and so on. In other words, each part is interpreted as functional with respect to the whole. Based on Halliday model, Tom Pont explained the three meta-functions of functional grammar in an informal way as follows. 1. We use language to talk about our experience of the world, including the world in our mind, to describe events and states and the entities involved in them. 2. We also use language to interact with other people, to establish and maintain relations with them, to influence their behavior, to express our own viewpoint on things in the world, and to elicit or change their. 3. Finally, in using language, we organize our message in ways which indicate how they fit in with the other message around them and with the wider context in which we are talking or reading. Similarly, Martin, Martinez, and Painter define functional grammar as a way of looking at grammar in terms of how grammar is used. In the field of linguistics, formal grammar, which is an alternative to functional grammar, is concerned with the ways our genes constrain the shape of our grammar and thus constrain what a person can and cannot say constructively. Functional grammar is not genetically oriented to our neuropsychological phraseology in the way. Rather, it focuses on the development of grammatical system as a means for people to interact with each other. Functional grammar sees grammar as shaped by and as playing a significant role in shaping the way we get on with our life, its orientation in social, in other words, rather than biological. Therefore, functional grammar based on cultural and social context is very useful for describing and evaluating how language can be used to read and speak more appropriately and effectively. Using functional grammar can help us to read more carefully and critically. Okay, the next is key concept in functional grammar. Functional grammar has many concepts, so it is not easy to provide a clear and ordered explanation of them. Different books arrange the concept in different order. There's chart, table, or paradigm, plus considerable terminology look terrible for new learners. In the book A Theoretical Grammar of English, Shu academically introduced the theory and its concept in detail. However, this explains the key concept in a simple way so the EFL teachers can get a vivid picture of functional grammar and how to apply it. In traditional grammar, there are 10 parts of speech: noun, verb, adjective, adverb, pronoun, number, article, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. Then each of these 10 classes can be divided into subcategories based on their function. In functional grammar, these classes of words do not disappear. However, functional grammar places English words into 4 big groups: noun group, verb group, adjective group, and prepositional group. In addition, traditional grammar analyzes sentence structure into subject, predicate, object, attributive, adverbial, and complement, while functional grammar gives a clause different functional labels depending on 3 kinds of metafunction. Now, you can see the example in example 1 and in function grammar. You can see. And this is the example 2. You can see. Okay, from these 2 examples, we can see that functional grammar has its own characteristic. To serve in communicative purpose, its concepts are quite different from traditional grammar. Based on current books of functional grammar, its key concepts include functions and system, hierarchical ranking of units, word order, word group, functions of the sentence, theme, mood, transitivity, and the clause complex. Okay, next is function and system. Functional grammar looks at how language works in terms of the functional relationship of its constituent part and system of choice which we make whenever we use language. The term functional is used because it describes the approach which sees grammatical categories in terms of their communicative function. Its system network it's like a computer program. When we start to run the program, the computer presents us with a menu of possible functions which the program can perform. After we select one of these functions, we will have a set of options to choose from. Let's take the following language menu as an example. Now, like this is like a menu when you start a computer. And then when we speak an utterance, we must choose whether we wish to give it the form of a statement, question, exclamation, greeting, request, suggestion, and each other. Once we choose to form a question, we then have a range of possible interrogative options in English, such as starting with what, how, do, does, will, would, or with some other verb by making inversions. Or we could simply let intonation and context do the job and retain the basic word order of a statement. The selection of A is the entry conditional of B, and selection of B will be the entry condition of G, and so on. Such choice is not arbitrary or whimsical, and we do in fact have good reason for choosing one form instead of another. Our grammatical choice will be determined by various stylistic and contextual factors. For example, whenever the speaker is referring to new or given information, the degree of formality and politeness involved and so on. And next is hierarchy of linguistic units. Functional grammar relates grammatical categories to the communicative function which they serve. Their functions are seen to operate at different levels or organization in the language and may be identified in terms of the constituent parts which go to form larger units. The implies a segmental principle of organization in which larger units may be seen as being formed from smaller units and smaller units being combined to form the larger unit. Take the following clause as an example. The little boy are working very hard on the lawn. Here, two morphemes, boy and s, from one word boys, two morphemes, work and ing, from one word working, three words, the little and boys, constitute a word group which is called nominal group. In this clause, there are four word groups in all: nominal group, the little boys; verbal group, are working; adverbial group, very hard; and prepositional group, on the lawn. Also, in functional grammar, there is still an adjective group like quite interesting. Word groups then from the constituent part of a clause. This hierarchical relationship can be vividly seen in the following model. And this, you can see clause, group, word, constituent of, and like that. Thus, in functional grammar, a clause is the highest grammatical unit, made up of one or more groups. Each group is made up of one or more words, and each word is made up of one or more morphemes, the morpheme being the minimal unit. This rank scale is the fundamental concept in functional grammar. And the next is clause and sentence. Although most books of functional grammar do not contribute a particular chapter to the concept of clause, it is of great importance. A clause is the highest unit of functional grammar. However, for EFL students, it is difficult to make a clear distinction between a clause and a sentence. Therefore, a comparison between a sentence and a clause has its significance in learning and using grammar. In traditional grammar, a sentence is a self-contained syntactical unit, and it's traditionally divided into two parts, subject and predicate. Or a sentence is a grammatical unit that is composed of one or more clauses. Moreover, the meaning of the term sentence may be expanded into to include elliptical material and non-productive item. In addition, traditional grammar sentence can be classified into three kinds: a simple sentence, a compound sentence, and a complex sentence. Comprised with a sentence, a clause is a grammatical unit that includes a minimum, a predicate, and an explicit or implicit subject, and expresses a preposition. Based on the definition of Holiday, a clause is a composite entity which is constituted not of one dimension of structure but of three: subject, actor, and theme. Each of the three functions construes a distinctive meaning. He labels them clause of message, clause as exchange, and clause as representation. Therefore, the concept of a clause is quite different from that of a sentence. Discussion of their difference will make a long story. Here we just compare their structure, which can be seen from the following example. This is the example. You can see he can lift the heavy bag is one clause and is one sentence. Go is one clause and one sentence, and each other. And the next is theme. The system of theme belongs to the textual metafunction of the language. It is concerned with the organization of information within individual clauses and through this, with the organization of the larger text. Besides, every clause is organized as a message related to an unfolding text. The system of them organizes the clause to show what its local context is in relation to the general context of the text it serves in. The system is concerned with the current point of departure in relation to what has come before, so that it is clear where the clause is located in the text, how its contribution fit in. In working with functional grammar, Martin, Masterson, and Penner explain that the local context or point of departure is called theme. The rest of the message of the clause is what is presented against the background of the local context. It is where the clause moves after the point of departure. This is called rhyme. The clause as message is thus organized into theme plus rhyme, and the theme is realized by initial position in the clause and rhyme that follow. Okay, you can see the example like this, theme and rhyme. You can see the name, I can say it, states that the theme is a construct of functional grammar that reveals how a clause in English is organized as a message. It occurs first in a clause and serves as a point of departure. The theme of a clause sometimes is the subject of a clause, but the function of subject and theme are not the same. The significance of the concept of theme is that theme in a clause is a point of departure of the development of a text. Following this point of departure, the text will be coherent and logical when we read and speak. Okay, maybe that's all for me. Thank you for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.